experienced what it was like to lose a small business overnight. The second your internet goes down, everything's on fire. A bundle of 300 or 400 cables perfectly tied up, and then having a random contractor go through and try to pull another one through that same bundle.
Howdy, everyone. This is Jeff Mago again with the tenantimprovement.com Lease and Build Podcast. Thank you again for subscribing, for following us, for watching us, and clicking all the other stuff that you're supposed to click. Today, we're going to be interviewing a different expert from tenantimprovement.com. It's a friend of mine that I've known for several years now that's running a growing and successful IT services firm here in Houston, Texas, Mr. Guil Abreu. So, Guil, I'll shake hands and say thank you. Thank you for being on the podcast. Awesome. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us, I love the name 713IT just because that's the main area code here in Houston, Texas. If anybody's old school Houston, they know that. But I love it. And so tell me a little bit about yourself and then how you got into the IT business and maybe how you got decided on the name.
Yeah, well, obviously 713IT, I grew up in Houston, right? So, being a native Houstonian, I wanted to start a company to help Houston small businesses. I kind of always had that in mind. But I got my footing in IT kind of in a roundabout way. I actually went to Rice for mechanical engineering, and shortly after college was invited to San Diego to start a cold brew coffee and tea company because they needed somebody to architect or engineer the systems to brew the volume of cold brew coffee and tea daily that the company needed.
So you weren't the barista, you were the
No.
the master
the
chef of
engineer.
Okay, that's cool.
And that went really well. We were brewing significant volumes of coffee and tea. I was very happy doing that. But pretty quickly into it, we got ransomware. And it happened overnight. It was nobody's fault, but the accountant actually clicked on the malicious link that came to her email. So I experienced what it was like to lose a small business overnight. And
You know what I call that? Because you helped me about 2 years ago. Then I go to log in and check and got hit by ransomware, and I call those virtual losers. And they frustrate me, but like I think you had set us up, and we might have lost a very short period of time, a day of work or something, and then we were back up and running. And since then I've taken better steps, but I just wanted to throw that out there. You had helped us.
Yeah.
So that was a teaching moment for you.
Oh, absolutely. Because I was running with the blinders on, just thinking that, the status quo was okay. We were too small to be a target, and all the usual misconceptions that business owners have before something bad happens to them. And then oftentimes, when it does happen, like I found out, it's too late. There's nothing you can do to remediate. So that company, I actually had to fold up and let go. And that was what was my transition into IT. At that point, I was like, okay, I need to learn how to protect businesses from going through this kind of experience. I changed hats. I mentored with one of the biggest small IT companies privately owned in San Diego for 3 years, and then decided it was time to come back to Houston and start 713IT.
Tell me again the degree at Rice.
I'm mechanical engineer.
Mechanical engineering, not exactly IT services, but so you're just mechanically engineering inclined, and IT services kind of goes with that. But where did you pick up more that just through this mentoring program?
Yeah, really, I mean, IT and engineering, very similar goals, right? It's process and workflow optimization and making sure you include a factor of safety in what you're developing, right? The system that you're developing for the business. So these days, the IT security posture, it doesn't look like try to prevent every possible attack. That's actually kind of impossible because where there's a will, there's a way. Instead, what you do is you minimize risk and downtime, operational downtime to the business by creating certain systems to where the risk is minimized, but also the time to turn around getting the business back operational is as small as possible.
That makes sense. Last personal question: your favorite for the World Cup coming up?
Okay, well, it's got to be Brazil.
It's got to be Brazil.
Originally from Rio, but I only really spent 4 years in Rio before I moved here to Houston. So I did grow up in Houston. I've still consider myself a native Texan,
Right.
first and foremost. But yeah, if the World Cup comes to Houston and Brazil is playing, I will be there.
Well, good luck to Brazil. And
Yeah. Well, thank you. It's definitely quite the experience too. If you haven't been to a World Cup game in person, it is
have you
quite
been to
the
one?
experience. Yeah, I got the lucky pleasure of being in one.
Where?
Russia.
Russia. No
My dad.
kidding. Oh my gosh.
But we don't talk about that other World Cup that happened recently.
You don't want me to start speaking German here.
No, no.
We will leave that one alone. I tell you what, why don't we switch to IT services? Because I think I've lost a few minutes here. But so what IT services? We were in a networking group, and it was a group designed to have like very siloed participants, and IT services always seemed to be one other thing. And we all joked about that. So
Yeah.
if we're going to tell everybody what do they need to think of, small business owner, what is IT services?
So IT services in a nutshell is taking care of your tech and access to your data that is stored on that tech, right? So whether it's a computer, a phone, when it's just you yourself operating as a really tiny small business, say you just started up, it's not that hard for you to say install an antivirus on your laptop and kind of make sure that your data isn't being exposed, right? But then as you add people to your company, the complexity just increases. So at some point, every small business owner needs to work with an IT guy just to manage the way that that tech is storing and the way that the data is being accessed on that device.
Okay. And so you got hardware, you got the data, you might have some not software, hardware, but cloud,
Sure.
virtual hardware
Sure.
and stuff like
And
that that you're
anytime
managing.
virtual hardware or physical hardware, the principle is the same. You still need to have backups in place and security measures in place. So even for people storing their data in the cloud, having one copy of the data is not a security policy.
Mhm.
You want to have at least 3 copies of your data in two different places with what's called an air gap in between, either physical or virtual, but no connection between one or two of these different data sources. That way, if a virus does infect one of them, it doesn't propagate across all your system.
Okay. All right. How do you see IT's evolved over the last 5 years? I'm sure it moves just about as fast as,
Oh yeah,
if not faster
I
than
think
any
it's
industry.
accelerating. Honestly, the pace at which it grows is accelerating, especially with the advent of AI. And now we're going to see that even increase potentially into the future.
Do you see it as a tool, AI, or do you see it as
Absolutely. Yeah,
okay.
no, absolutely. It is. I mean, it's something to be wary of in many ways too, although I don't think the dangers are quite there yet. Um, Potentially we will see some scary stuff in the near future though.
So you got okay. Nicole asked me, and it's like, oh, it could be the end of humanity. I don't know, but but we're gonna work with it to leverage it because it's an opportunity at the same time. We still are a human company, and I think that I have a business mentor, and he's like, human beings are meant to commune together, and
Yeah.
so as much as these bots and AI tools are gonna help us, we still need this connectivity.
Sure. And I think for now, at least, they'll facilitate work, but there'll still be humans behind those AI
Yeah.
tools.
You talked about small businesses, how they might be able to just throw on the, virusware uh, um, uh, on their PC and they're good, but they get a little bit bigger. I want to think more in terms of tenant improvement projects. If I'm moving offices and I've got 2 employees, I'm just kind of handling it myself. If I've got 20 employees, at what point do you get involved
It
on
really
tenant
depends.
improvement?
I mean, it really depends on the nature of your business, right? So, a one-person law firm might already require an IT person because they're in a compliance industry, right?
Mhm.
So, legal, healthcare, finance, those you kind of want to start early because what you're really doing, you're not just protecting the data and access to the data, you're protecting yourself from liability. It's almost like forming an LLC, hiring an IT MSP. You're offloading that risk onto that company because they're saying, we will manage the way that people access this data and guarantee security. So that's your first recourse in any kind of potential conflict situation, right? Whether it's you get hacked or you have a bad termination with an employee who leaks company data by stealing a laptop or whatever it is, right? That IT company that you hire, it's a form of security
Mhm.
for yourself as the business owner. And
Okay.
compliance industries really they require that upfront because a business owner wouldn't have the wherewithal to set up all the systems and then file their own compliance, right? But a trades company, maybe 5, 6 users, whenever the business owner starts to get overwhelmed and frustrated with the day-to-day upkeep of their tech infrastructure, that would be a good point to reach out to an IT guy.
Okay, so the trigger points, I have extra sensitive data I need to be mindful of, or I just get maybe, I mean, flooring, there's not a lot of sensitive data we have, right, in our company. But, once we get to have too many users, then that's where actually you and I probably
Exactly.
started getting involved. It's like I
Yeah.
was trying to do it myself,
Yeah.
and then I needed that. So, what are some great questions if I'm looking, let's say I've got a 20-man office that I'm moving to a new location, a tenant improvement project. What are some of the questions I should be thinking to ask when hiring an IT service company?
You always want to understand what the company's general security philosophy is, like what their approach is to securing your business, right? There are several ways that we can approach this. And just speaking on a 10,000-foot view, I'm kind of alluding to what I spoke to you earlier, where I said that the majority of the industry now doesn't consider it possible even to prevent every type of attack, and rather it's about remediation and mitigation procedures and policies that you have documented and in place, ready to go on a moment's notice for when the thing inevitably happens, right? Because it's really a matter of when a small business will be hacked, and then what the damages will be or what the remediation will look like. It's not a matter of if.
I kind of feel like there's an analogy of eating carbs. Like people that trend years ago of like trying to avoid carbs as much as possible in your diet. And
Sure.
they're like, well, the moment you wake up and start eating, you've already failed because
Right.
there are carbs in everything. So it sounds like there's risk
Yeah.
in everything that we're doing. And I did take note when you said that early in the interview that it's much more about how risky is the situation and then how quickly can we recover for the situation. And I know that with our backup systems, I have even forgotten what they are, but I remember that they're in place, right? And every once in a while I go, they are in place, aren't they? And they are. But
Right.
yeah, that's a great way to think about it. Well, what is so you talk about hiring someone in an IT services company and their security philosophy. Um, is there a difference between a high-end provider versus the commodity one that just wants to show up, throw some cables in the wall, and might be oversimplifying that, and
Yeah.
connect some
In the
desktops?
industry, what we call a trunk slammer, right?
Trunk slammer, there you go.
A guy from Micro Center who decided to wing it and figure out on his own how to, run cable in a building. And
Yep.
you really never know who you're hiring until they start to do the work, right? But there are some good tells. And one of the things you're going to want to look for is obviously a business that has business insurance, liability, and errors and emissions. That is a
Ooh,
huge one.
errors and emissions. I didn't think
It's
about
huge in
that.
IT, right? But even if I
Yeah.
give you bad advice, you want that to be covered as well, right? If I
Yeah.
tell you use software X as your backup solution and that software fails, well, now my insurance will cover that,
Right.
right? But most trunk slammers not going to have insurance. The other
Right.
thing they're not going to have is an SLA. When it comes to an IT contract, you need somebody who provides a robust service level agreement. And that basically dictates the relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are your expectations of
SLA stands for, sorry,
service level agreement?
service level agreement. Okay. All right. I wanted to.
So it's my expectations of you as my customer, like what you'll have to provide for me to do my job correctly, and then what you can expect in return as my IT customer, right? So how quickly I'll remediate different tiers of issues, and we have it broken down. Industry standard is 5 different tiers for service issues, but different companies work differently, right? So look at that paperwork, look at the insurance, and look at the SLA,
So
and that'll give you a great idea of how good the IT company is.
going to the insurance, most commercial office buildings won't let you step foot in without having the insurance.
100%.
Are they, but the tenant, is the tenant more the one that's hiring you, the business owner, or is the architect or general contractor? Because if from my experience, if the general contractor or the architect is hiring you, then like boom, you better have the insurance or you're not starting. And if the business owner's in there, the business owner sometimes might skip that process, not tell the building, and have you in there anyways. Is that how
Which is exactly what happens a lot of the
they get in
time.
trouble
A
with
lot
that?
of the time, the IT guy is working directly with the business owner. It's actually one of the biggest pain points in my industry, at least for me personally, on the construction side. Um, IT is an afterthought, right? But it's what all businesses live and breathe on. They depend on, right? The second your internet goes down, everything's on fire, right? And every trade gets factored in first in a commercial construction process, right?
Mhm.
So usually the first one to go is electrical for permitting purposes and for scope. And the last thing to be included in the budgetary consideration is the IT as kind of the afterthought after all the plans and all the budgets already been allocated, right?
Right.
So, um,
I would imagine business owners sometimes just struggling with the overall, like it's almost like let's just get everything in place and then we'll tell the IT guy where we need stuff. It's like
right,
they get to vision fatigue, trying to
sure.
envision their new space and their new process, and then they're like, oh, yeah, okay, now we're ready to do this.
Sure, which often makes the whole thing more expensive too, right? So I would love to turn that around and work a lot more closely with commercial leasing brokers, architects, and GCs at the early stages of these construction projects to really do the job correctly and more budget appropriate too in the
Right.
process.
We're kind of talking around the subject, so I don't know if this next question is redundant or not, but are there common mistakes that you see clients make when hiring an IT service company?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Um, at least not vetting multiple options early on can be a huge problem, right? Just trusting the first person you meet that gives you a decent price. You kind of want to explore what that company has done for other customers in any way that you can, whether that be to ask for references and go visit them in person. Just take a look. I've seen some absurd things in the recent past. Like this year, actually just 2 weeks ago, I was working with a local doctor. She worked she had just barely bought the building. It was less than a month old. And they had done some renovations, right? So her IT company that she was paying $1,200 a month to had just come and dropped off her network firewall and a managed computer next to a sink where she disposes biohazards and had an access point pointing up into space that was beaming her broadcast to the moon or her Wi-Fi to the moon. So this is the kind of thing you see when people are hiring these smaller IT companies that don't necessarily have on-prem staff to do structured cabling projects correctly, right? Or at least some kind of relationship with subcontractors that do that kind of job correctly. Uh, it is hard to find the all-in-one IT company, right? The IT company that does managed services and structured cabling both very well. But you kind of want to work with somebody that does both because they'll make sure to do a good job on both ends and not just kind of give you what the bare minimums of what they'll give you just to maximize their monthly revenue on the recurring side. That's what you want to avoid.
And again, some of these questions are a little redundant, but what do you wish people knew before hiring? Are there any disconnects? And I think we're talking about it. I think that it's the vision fatigue. The business owner is at the end of their wits or wanting
Hmm.
everything to be in place before they talk to the IT service company.
Hmm.
Would be one thing. So they put it off. Number two is they find the brother-in-law or
Or maybe they're just tired of looking for different tradespeople, right? So they've vetted four flooring guys and
yeah,
four roofers, and they checked on 100 different versions of paint for the wall, and now finally the last thing is which IT company do you want to
yeah.
pick? They're just picking the.
I think it's such a personal decision because, and that's where I think that might. I'm wondering how many people just hire the brother-in-law.
Hmm.
And I'll say this: I had a chance to spend some family time on a vacation and meet the brother-in-law of a very well-known, uh, a very well-known. I want to try and say it. Somebody that everybody would recognize, and so to
Hmm.
meet this brother-in-law was kind of like, whoa, okay. And I asked, and it was IT services for
Sure.
the brother-in-law and stuff. Now he might be extremely competent and stuff like that, and it's a unusual situation. He was a great guy,
Hmm.
um, but I wonder, like, how many people they want somebody to trust
Yeah,
versus
absolutely.
knowing what to trust.
Absolutely. And it is a very trust dependent industry, right? Because your IT guy does have a lot of access.
Yeah,
So you do want somebody you can trust. I wouldn't necessarily say that family fits that bill 100% of the time, right? Maybe that's even exposing yourself to more liability because there's a conflict of interest there that's inherent. And while you think family might go the extra way to do a good job for you, I don't think that's the case 100% of the time.
right.
People are often, if they are working with family, are doing it for budgetary reasons.
Hmm.
And then I would argue that what is the opportunity cost there? If you're saving even 50% on your monthly IT bill, but it costs you your business 1, 2, 3 years into it, rather than working with somebody who really minimizes your risk because they don't want to inherit that risk.
It's a hard concept to be afraid of a future event that you don't want to have happen, don't know how it could happen,
Hmm.
and then and you know what I mean?
Hmm.
And this is where I want to insert a Chuck Norris joke, rest in peace, Chuck. Like the boogeyman that you're afraid of, and you need that protector
Sure, sure.
kind of thing. So give me a really great success story. Big job. I know you told me that right now 713 IT is like growing.
Yeah.
Congrats, because right now the industry for tenant improvement projects are a little bit down, I'll just say. But so tell me a big success story that you guys have.
I mean, I hate to attribute my success to other people's hard times, but oftentimes it can be that way in IT because, like I said, IT is an afterthought, right? And people are not necessarily knowing what they need until after something bad has happened. So, unfortunately, this year that's kind of been the theme. I've seen a lot of um, increased activity on the web front as far as hackers trying to get into your web hosted services or into your on-prem data storage via social engineering schemes. So I was working with a medical company that I have just met about a month ago. They had a they had a history of 35 plus years in Houston, over 50 employees. They had an in-house COO who's very tech savvy. He had a background in tech in college over 30 years ago. And they had been operating about $5 million in revenue for several years. When the ransomware hit, it hit and overnight it propagated through all their systems, hitting every computer, every file server, their phone system, everything they had on-prem. And I was actually introduced to them about 2 days after the event by their accountant. Uh, Within a day and a half, we were able to completely rebuild all of their systems, all the servers, every single computer, completely from scratch, having to basically throw away every hard drive that was infected and start anew. And the only reason that business survived was because their in-house IT guy was taking a physical tape backup of the server every night. So they
Golly,
had an air-gapped backup that was this 1600 gigabit tape labeled Monday through Sunday sitting on a shelf somewhere,
give that
and we
guy
were
company
able to
watch.
restore. He does deserve a medal because he's the only reason these 50 people still have jobs.
Wow.
Yeah. And even then, the damage to the business was substantial. So they lost a $1 million contract because of the downtime. The customer needed some project to move quickly, and they lost that customer. They lost about $100,000 cash up front in remediation efforts due to new hardware purchase and labor. They also lost probably another 120,000 in operational downtime,
Right.
right? In wages for people because they still paid these people they sent home for a couple of days. So yeah, the damage to the business was still substantial, and most businesses wouldn't have survived.
Well, I would say you started off responding to this question about you don't want to take, pleasure in other people's,
Hmm.
hard times and helping them recover. Oh my gosh, flooring. I mean, when the city gets hit by a hurricane, I mean, everybody in town is
Yeah,
got tears in their eyes, and the flooring guys are like, "Oh, let's get to work. This is going to be good." I mean,
yeah,
Hurricane Harvey was a very interesting time for floor zone, but there
Hmm.
was some transition period going on at that moment, and Harvey was like a huge blessing for the flooring industry, even though it was a big suffering for the Houston community. So, but it's
Right. I feel the same way about those kinds of weather events, honestly, because that's the first time that a business really realizes how much they need redundancy in their power or connectivity
yeah.
services, right? As soon as that internet connection goes down, even if they have a backup generator on prem, now suddenly everybody's freaking out, right? Because they're not
Yeah.
able to work.
So we talked about data sensitive industries, legal,
Hmm.
finance, medical, right? And we talked about those are smaller footprint companies,
Sure.
right? A strategic partner for the ongoing SLA service agreement that you're going to be responding for. How big should a trade company, should you know, a company that doesn't have sensitive data, I guess 5, 10, 15, 20 employees or
Yeah, a trade, probably 10, 15, 20 employees. Yeah, it depends on the trade really. But if you're at 10 vans, usually if you're, say, a plumbing company,
mhm.
you're probably at about $3 million in revenue.
Okay,
So complexity or no complexity, you probably want to protect that kind of revenue stream.
sure. Okay.
That's more about that.
Yeah.
Do you have skin in the game? What is your risk tolerance, right? And what kind of revenue are you making?
Okay.
At that point, it really starts to make sense. Even an IT services contract, a good one for a business of that size, shouldn't cost you more than say 2, 3 grand a month.
We're trying to create a little segment within these podcasts called Punch This. One issue at the end of a job, you're like, oh, again.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. So you might hire an IT services contract to do your whole structured cabling infrastructure. If you're really proactive, right, you might think you're pretty ahead of the game. I just worked on a massive law firm's reconstruction project, moving their IT room as they grow from 30 to over 100 users, and rebuilding, re-architecting everything from scratch. And you wouldn't believe what I saw in that job. At the very tail end of this thing, they've been hiring contractors for their security or their internet or their access control systems, their cameras, after all the IT infrastructure work was completed. And now we have subcontractors from 3 or 4 different companies coming into a $300,000 IT room that was pristine, running
Oh,
their own cable however the heck
oh,
they please,
oh.
right? And oftentimes these guys do not work for these bigger companies. They're subcontracted and they have no control over quality. So I've seen all kinds of weird things being.
So, okay, biggest mistake, punch this, don't do this, is as a business owner, you go ahead and do the smart thing. You hire 713 IT, you get the system set up, it's done. Then you start calling all these ancillary services to connect in, but you don't have anybody watch the hen house and they just connect willy-nilly.
Correct. Yeah,
Oh,
correct.
that's you did that. So we did have a problem at Floor Zone, and Gil was like, "Hey, let's put a key on the server box." And I was like, "Really?" And he goes, "Yeah, the number one issue
Yeah,
with the server boxes is people having access to it."
correct. Yeah.
So, okay, that's funny. That's
Yeah,
funny.
and it really will never go down if you don't touch it. But this thing of having, a bundle of 3 or 400 cables perfectly tied up and then having a random contractor go through and try to pull another one through that same bundle, it just never works out correctly. So do it all at once, do it all up front, and do it all with the same provider and have that provider manage the different subs that might need to have access or have their equipment installed in that rack. We can oftentimes even install that equipment for them. So, a great example, I worked recently with a local restaurant who needed a point of sale system installed after I did the IT network portion, right?
Uh-huh.
And rather than letting them send their contractor to install how they typically would, which would be to recreate what I did, but duplicate everything with worse hardware and hope that it works, and it oftentimes causes actually a lot of problems with reliability. I told them, hold off on that. Let me set up everything for this point of sales company, and I'll actually set up even everything on the same hardware, but with software, isolate their equipment from ours, so make it compliant, right? And when finally the point of sale system installer came, they said it was the easiest time they've ever had at any install. They loved it. The client loved it. It looked better. It was more performant and it cost less in the end. So always start with your IT guy and let him guide you through the process of what the other vendors can and can't do in that rack.
I have been told that often electricians will offer to run wire so that they can make the IT budget go away.
Yeah.
How often does that happen? And does that just have, well, you're not pulling a lot of hair out, I can see, but
They are going gray though. I just at the thought of that,
really?
honestly. Yeah.
So
Oh
what's the
yeah.
problem with
The problem with that is that the electrician thinks it's just another wire, right?
it?
And they can pull cable. Sure. They can pull cable. They can run conduit. They don't know the golden standards and they don't have the tools to measure, say, if they're pulling fiber, the optical quality of the fiber cable that they just pulled. Did they crack it in the wall? They would never know. Or if they're terminating copper, they may have a cheap Home Depot cable tester. They're not going to have a fluke. They can't see if there's every possible error in that cable. So when you have a professional structured cabling guy come and install and do your network, everything will be thoroughly tested and labeled and certified. You don't get that with an electrician. And then you have an IT guy come in after the fact. They install a whole network after your electrician certified their cables. If there's any possible error in any one of those cables, the IT guy is going to have to reverse engineer what went wrong, right? And now he's spending his time hourly doing that. That's going to cost you a lot more than doing it correctly the first time. The reason this keeps happening is what I was talking about earlier, though. The IT side of the conversation doesn't happen until the project completing, but is starting with the electrician. And all the electrician wants to do is spend a couple more hours on site to get a couple more billable hours, right? So they're going to throw in a couple extra cable runs and say it's normal, par for the course that they do this.
Well, I think it's also maybe a little bit of industrial ego in the sense that they're pulling the cable that if you mess up and you touch it wrong can kill you, right?
Sure,
Start
sure.
a
Yeah,
fire.
there is that too. There is that
So
too.
they think, well, we're already doing the heavy lifting.
Right, the
This
harder
is the
cable.
low volt.
Yeah,
This is the
exactly.
low volt.
Right,
But
exactly.
the power is the data. The power
Sure.
is the system that's actually running
Mm-hmm.
the data.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the
Sure.
it's not the concrete of the superhighway. It's the cars that are going through it. So
Right, correct.
anyway,
Even if they do everything correctly, like not running the data in parallel with the mains voltage, so you don't have induction happening in the data cable, right? Or using the right kind of data cable with the right shielding. Even if they do all that correctly, it's still going to be a bad day eventually.
yeah.
Oh, you know what? There is one nugget
What's
that I
that?
can leave you with as well. That's really simple and probably a good way to kind of reverse that situation I was talking about earlier, where we're brought in way too late in the planning of this project. Most companies don't know that the best way for you to get connectivity services, whether it's phone or internet for your business, is to not go directly to the vendors. The vendors will try to upsell you whatever they can that they have internal that's best for them, but they're not going to ever tell you that another vendor has a better solution. The only person that'll give you that information is an MSP who works with multiple vendors, right? So you come to somebody like 713, we can sell you AT&T, Comcast, Logix, Easy Fiber, or any other phone service you may or may not have heard of. Reason that's better, I'm vendor agnostic now. I don't care which vendor you end up on. I'm min-maxing this situation for you, right? I'm not just trying to get as much money in my pocket, and I can actually sell you these same service contracts at or below their internal price because I'm buying through what's called a wholesale master agent that facilitates the relationship and gives me better pricing and allows you to be working with me for support on these same service contracts.
So you're looking for an IT services company that has a designation of being an MSP.
Correct. Yeah, you're looking for an MSP.
So what is your ideal client? Let's switch to that because we're kind of coming towards the end here. Give me your ideal client for 713 IT right now, and then maybe in a year or two.
Ideal clients would be Houston small professional services companies that are compliance regulated. So
Okay.
healthcare, legal, finance, anywhere between really 2 and 50 plus users. I've worked with bigger companies before as well. They're not necessarily the bread and butter because at that point they already have either other MSPs that they work with, other IT providers, and or in-house IT. And so that at that point I'm offering co-managed solutions. I really want to focus on the startup space and helping those small businesses that didn't have access to enterprise style IT service get that same quality support that the larger companies are accustomed to.
Three categories: legal, finance, medical. smaller team, right? Smaller footprint, but the need is greater again because the data is more sensitive.
Is more sensitive, correct? Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, and specifically that data sensitivity, what it translates to make that tangible is in those industries, if a business owner mishandles certain data or records, right? Electronic health records, social security information, that kind of thing, they pierce the corporate veil, and that LLC is no longer protecting them as an individual. So they are sued by the individuals that were damaged by the data leak personally.
Well, this has been good because there are many times where Gil and I'll talk, and he'll get deep into the detail, and it just goes right by me. And I'm like, well, I know I'm supposed to be like understanding and paying attention, but the level of depth and knowledge is always impressed me. And so anyway, so Gil, again, I'm going to shake one more time, but thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Jeff.
So if anybody's looking for IT services in Houston, Texas, not only did I just interview Gil, right, but he's been providing services for Floor Zone for several years now, and it's been a great experience. And like I said, when we had the virtual loser hit us, we were not down for very little bit of time and didn't really lose much data at all. And since then, we've taken extra precautions. So I'd recommend 713 IT wholeheartedly. Anyways, thank you again for joining the Lease and Build podcast. This is Jeff Mago with tenantimprovement.com. Click like, subscribe, and everything else you're supposed to do. So look forward to hearing you or seeing you on the next episode. Thank you.